This youth generation, Dion Price, Life of a Youth Worker. This episode is based on a column that talks about the danger of falling in love with materialism. And it brought some interesting conversations that we like to share with parents, youth workers, and youth themselves. If you appreciate this material and this type of programming, like the channel, share the channel, download the podcast, and let's grow this type of material. So, Love's Gonna Get You is the theme of this, based on a popular hip hop song by KRS-One, the Blastmaster, Boogie Down Production. Back in the day, had a hit song called Love's Gonna Get You. Love for materialism will get you into trouble. This column speaks to that very challenge that young people are having in this generation. So, as a father, I have the honor of and the privilege of experiencing parenting from various perspectives, raising boys and a girl, teenagers, and now young adults. And as a youth worker, I converse often with parents who are having the same challenge and struggle with this youth generation being obsessed with certain materialism and trends happening. They have to have it. So, with a 17-year-old son, I'm experiencing the effect of being socially disconnected in a sense from decades. As challenging as it is to stay in tune with today's modern culture, I'm quickly learning that the older I get, the less I understand the desires of today's youth generation. No matter how much we try to stay and understand today's youth generation, there will still be a degree of cultural disconnect and generational disconnect. The sincere effort to embrace and understand them is a good idea for parents, youth workers, and mentors of young people. We may never fully understand the mystery of the adolescent mindset. There are some things I will never understand, but I guess I'll have to just accept it. Three things I struggle with most about today's and the modern youth culture is their choice of fashion. The sagging pants, excessive tattoos, and piercings. Although I can sort of understand the athletic shoes, the obsession, I was caught up in that briefly, as we all are. But where they lose me is actually paying up to $1,000 for a pair of sneakers. That's something I will never understand. It will never make sense to me, right? I guess each generation has its thing. In the 70s, it was long hair and afros and bell-bottom jeans. In the 80s, it was nasty, messy Jerry curls and leather, colorful jackets. I had one for about 2 weeks. I had a Jerry curl for about 2 weeks. But growing up in Southern California, LA, I played ball outside too much. So at any given moment, with all those chemicals, my head was about to explode and catch on fire. Couldn't do it. I was too much of a baller. So I got rid of that Jerry curl in about 2 weeks, right? So that was something in the 80s. We all had our thing. In the 90s, it was all these fat gold chains and long tees and Jordans. In the early 2000s, it was all about the gold grills and tats, right? Everything, every generation has its thing. So we got to understand that. Each generation has those must-have items, right? I remember those times in my generation getting up in the midnight, late 80s, and standing in line to buy the latest Michael Jackson album. Yes, that's right. I ain't shy. I was a big MJ fan, as we all should respect. Talent is talent, game recognized game, right? In the 70s, it was those rock concerts that had all the young people staying out camping all night in arenas. In the 90s, children and teens were camping out early to buy the latest game system, right? Everybody had their thing, right? But only this generation will sleep outdoors and be the first to buy a video game system. Not only are these machines extremely overpriced, but the manufacturers strategically place limited number of them in retail stores to create this frenzy that generates media attention. It's a marketing strategy that we fall for. The same marketing strategy Michael Jordan's Nike uses to create this got to have it buzz limited edition Jordan, have everybody fighting, killing, and jacking each other over these Nike shoes. It's a marketing strategy that we have to be, and many of us consumers, particularly a young generation, the youth generation, we fall for it. They create a sense of urgency and it's a gotta have it now mentality that seems to be effective in today's gullible consumers. And parents fall prey to it because they want to get what their kids want. I understand some parents just want to provide their children with a better lifestyle and things that they couldn't afford in their upbringing. However, I believe there's a lesson to be learned In today's media-induced materialistic environment, we should teach our children to resist the urge to follow the desires of their eyes. Maybe the lesson is to resist following every popular trend. Let's take it to scripture. Romans 12:2. Stop being molded by this system of things, but be transformed to make your mind over. What that basically means is stop allowing influence of the world's influences to compromise you into becoming obsessed. Be careful following these today's trends because they often lead to unhealthy things, right? We got to be mindful. And it says making your mind over. I mean, give it some thought over and over again. Rethink this thing over and over again is a good idea, rooted in scripture. Maybe we shouldn't allow them to have everything they want just because it's popular and everyone else has it. Since when do you don't want to do everything everybody else do? That creates a very vulnerable lack of discipline to follow trends can be very dangerous. Even if a parent can't afford it, should it be okay to succumb to every desire? If they can learn to resist their urges now, then maybe, just maybe, they'll be able to resist more harmful and serious urges or addictions later on in life. Right? Makes sense. Here's where it becomes dangerous. When we become victims of our own desires, and those desires digress into unhealthy habits and addictions. When you allow your eyes to see something that becomes so fixated in your mind that it leads you to doing anything to get it, we're in trouble. Even if it compromises your good judgment, morals, and ethics, you're in trouble, right? I mentioned that in the very beginning that the classic hip hop group Boogie Down Production had a hit song called Love's Gonna Get You. You fall in love with materialism, cars, jewelry, fall in love with someone else's girl. That leads to trouble. Great song and a great lesson. Hip hop, again, teaching lessons that we can learn today. Love's gonna get you. Falling in love with cars, jewelry, even fleshly desires, developing an unhealthy desire for something or someone that doesn't belong to you, but you're going to go and get it anyway. These actions could result in tragedy, as we're seeing almost on a daily basis these days. People are being robbed and killed over materialism, over messing with someone else's significant other, boyfriend, girlfriend. We see it on a daily basis. It leads to people seeing what they want, falling in love or falling in lust with their eyes, and it's getting into their heart and desires, and they're going to go get it regardless of if it's theirs or not. They're going to take it, steal it, rob it, do whatever they're doing, and it's causing tragedy. It's a good idea to have a balanced view, to discipline your eyes, and not let your desires get out of control, and keep a balanced perspective of materialism and stay in your lane. You tell me when this doesn't make sense. Sometimes it's a good idea to say no to yourself. That's right, pump your brakes. Check yourself. You better run a check. Look, I got hip hop terms. I can go all day with hip hop terms. This youth generation, Dion Price, just a humble servant trying to make a difference.